So far, we've seen that the first principle of small group coaching is to keep leaders on mission. And then the second principle is to assess leaders and groups. Now that's all leading to our third principle, which, as you remember, that really you're a disciple maker, you're a mentor to these small group leaders. So you're building into their lives, you're developing relationship with them. And all of that leads to our third coaching principle, and that is to help leaders succeed. And the first aspect of that is you want to help them succeed in their own pursuit of God. Take a look with me at Psalm 78, starting in verse 70. God chose his servant David, calling him from the sheep pens. He took David from tending the ewes and lambs and made him the shepherd of Jacob's descendants, God's own people, Israel. He cared for them with a true heart and led them with skillful hands. In this psalm, David had the traits of a spiritual leader. It says he shepherded Israel with a true heart and with skillful hands. And that's what we want to see happen in the lives of our small group leaders. That's what we want to see happen in our lives as well. We want to shepherd them just as they shepherd the people in their groups. So we want to help them and come alongside them, pray for them, encourage them, nurture them, challenge them as needed in their walk with Christ and in their own pursuit of God. You see, we want to help our small group leaders to model the very same kind of life that they're trying to build in the lives of the people in their groups. We want to see them become the same kind of people that they're trying to help their leaders become. See, when you consider what it means to be a full circle follower of Christ, then that's what we want to see our leaders become, even as they help other people grow into that as well. That's what we want to become as coaches. Because we can't give anybody something that we don't have ourselves, and we can't lead people where we haven't been ourselves. And so first we want to help our small group leaders grow in their own pursuit of God. And then secondly, we also want to help them grow in their ability to lead and multiply their groups. Now, we talked about the importance of assessment, but where do you begin to give input? Because there could be a lot of different issues over time. We talked about maybe choosing one thing at a time so that the leader doesn't get overwhelmed or get discouraged. And my counsel would be to fix the biggest leak first. In other words, what's the one issue in the life of the group that if it was corrected would have the most impact on the health of the group? What's the one issue where the group is having the most trouble and that would be the most impactful? And so you want to do your evaluation and talk it over with the leaders of the group. You bring your evaluation in, you compare it with their self-assessment, and you talk then about what area would be the next step that you want to address. Would it be something in head or heart or hands? In other words, do they need to address something in their understanding, maybe something in their motivation, or something in their practical skills? And you work on that together. And again, the small group leader job description is a great tool to use in choosing what area to address first. Now, as you help your leaders succeed in leading and multiplying their groups, there's going to be two key areas where you might be called upon to do that. The first is in giving ongoing input into developing those leadership skills. Now that starts with the initial training that they go through, but you're also going to come alongside and maybe make suggestions, give them an article to read, or give them some personal input that's going to coach them on particular leadership skills. That's an ongoing process. But then you also might be called to come in and help with times of transition and crisis. There's some pretty important transition times in the life of a small group where a coach could be super helpful. One of those is when the group is just getting started. Another one might be when the group is just getting ready to multiply. Those are times that call for some extra attention and care. But a lot of times groups will also have times of crisis where you might be called to step in and help the group leader navigate a particularly vexing problem, maybe a developing crisis in the life of the group that's causing the group to not succeed. And so they could use your help during times like that. But whatever you do to help your leaders succeed in leading and multiplying their groups, I want to encourage you to use the coaching tools. And we have basically three kinds of coaching tools that are going to help you to help your small group leaders succeed. First of all, the job descriptions set the standard. In fact, the most important standard is found in these job descriptions, both the small group leader job description and your job description as a coach. So you need to be familiar with both of those. And then secondly, we have playbooks, and third, we have worksheets. And playbooks and worksheets help identify the next steps. Playbook is a document that helps to keep the relationships in a small group or your relationship as a coach with your leaders, to help keep those relationships organized and to help you to keep the big picture in view. There's a place on the playbook for leaders to identify what the appropriate next steps that they're pursuing might be. And again, there's a playbook for a small group leader to use with his or her team, and there's a playbook for you to use to organize your coaching relationships. So you should be familiar with both of those playbooks and use them to help your leaders to succeed. And then there's a number of worksheets at PursueGOD.org that again identify next steps and help leaders to move toward those next steps. We've already talked about the self-assessment worksheet, but we also have some transitional worksheets. We have one in particular that helps people know how to launch a group, the steps that are required to take to get a group off the ground. And we have another one that outlines the steps that group leaders need to take to reproduce a group and to move toward reproducing a group. And so it's vitally important that you as a coach are familiar with those worksheets and that you make your leaders familiar with them and help them use those worksheets so that you can help them to prepare their groups for success. Now, when it comes to meeting schedule, your ideal meeting schedule is outlined at the bottom of the small group coach's job description. And then how you organize those meetings with your small group leaders, there's a place to organize that on your small group playbook. The point is that if you use the coaching tools, there's some great tools that are going to help you to help your leaders succeed.